I'm 34 male, software engineer in Denver. I own my house, I pay my taxes, I show up on time for everything, work, family dinners, oil changes. I'm the steady guy. The guy who doesn't flip tables or make scenes at holidays. The guy everyone describes as reliable the way they describe a good truck. My girlfriend of 4 years knew this about me. She counted on it, actually. Banked on it. Built her entire exit strategy around it. And she almost got away with it. We'd been living together for 2 years at that point. She worked in marketing, was good at it, hungry for more, which I genuinely respected. Drive is attractive. But there's a difference between ambition and running a quiet operation inside your own relationship, and somewhere in year 3 she crossed that line so smoothly, I nearly missed it. I say nearly. Easter Sunday. My mom hosts every year. Same tablecloth she's had since 1987, same honey-glazed ham, same slightly burned dinner rolls that everyone pretends are rustic and intentional. My whole family is there, my parents, my brother and his wife, my aunt, my 2 cousins. My girlfriend is seated next to me, working the table like she always did. She had this way of performing warmth that I used to find charming. Looking back, I should have paid more attention to the word performing. We're somewhere between the salad course and the main course when she sets her fork down, dabs her mouth with a napkin and announces, loud enough for every single person at the table to hear, I have some exciting news. We're moving to Paris. I already applied for a job there, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting the offer. The table went quiet. Not polite quiet. Not the processing kind of quiet. The kind where you can hear the candles flickering.
My mom looked at me.
My brother looked at me. My aunt's fork stopped halfway to her mouth and just stayed there, suspended. And I looked at my girlfriend, who was beaming. Actually glowing. Like she'd just announced a pregnancy instead of unilaterally deciding to relocate both our lives to another continent without a single conversation. She had told me nothing. Not a whisper. Not a, hey, what do you think about Europe? Not a, hypothetically, if I got a huge opportunity abroad. Nothing. 3 months of interviews, application materials, correspondence, and not one word to the man she lived with. I took a slow sip of my iced tea. Set the glass down. Looked at her for a moment. Then I turned to my mom, smiled, and said, Bon voyage. My girlfriend's beam flickered. What? Bon voyage, I said, and picked my fork back up. Good luck in Paris. She laughed, that forced, performative laugh people do when they're trying to socially engineer a situation back under control. He's joking, she told the table. We've talked about this. My brother looked at me. I gave him the smallest headshake I could manage.
No, we had not talked about this.
She kept the act going through dessert. Kept touching my arm, kept redirecting conversations, kept using that warm laugh to signal to everyone that this was just playful banter between a couple with excellent communication. She was good. I'll give her that. She was very, very good. The drive home was quiet for exactly 4 minutes. Why would you embarrass me like that? I embarrassed you.
Yes.
In front of your whole family. I kept my eyes on the road. You announced we were moving to another country. First I'd heard of it. I was going to tell you.
When?
After the visa cleared, she pivoted immediately. Dropped the wounded angle, picked up the reasonable one. She said she hadn't wanted to stress me out before she knew the offer was real. She said she was trying to protect me from uncertainty. She said she thought I'd be excited. You thought I'd go along with it, I said. Because you presented it as already done. That's different from thinking I'd be excited. Silence. We got home. She tried the affection route, sat close on the couch, hand on my knee, soft voice. Asked if we could talk about it like adults. I said sure, tell me about Paris. And she did. For 20 minutes. The job was real, senior marketing director at a luxury brand's European headquarters, salary nearly double what she made in Denver, dream-level role. She'd been interviewing for 3 months. 3 months of scheduled video calls, portfolio submissions, reference coordination. All of it conducted while living in my house, sleeping in my bed, eating dinner across from me every night. I wanted to surprise you with good news, she said. You wanted to hand me a done deal, I said. So, I wouldn't have a real opportunity to say no.
She didn't deny it.
And that silence told me everything I needed to understand about the last 4 years. Over the next 2 days, she ran through her full playbook. When logic didn't work, she tried guilt. She said I was holding her back. She said a man who really loved her would support her dreams without needing to be consulted. She said I was being selfish. I reminded her that she had conducted a 3-month secret job search for a position on a different continent while we were supposed to be building a life together, and asked her to explain to me how I was the selfish one in that sentence. She didn't have a great answer for that. So she escalated. She called my mom. I found out because my mom called me 20 minutes later, sounding uncomfortable, saying my girlfriend had reached out to share that she was worried about me and that I had been struggling with commitment for a while. She'd framed it as concern. She was, in reality, trying to open a back channel and apply family pressure. She genuinely thought recruiting my mother would move the needle. My mom, who is sharp as a tack and has seen every variety of human behavior in her 61 years, called me directly and told me everything. Then she said, "I raised you to be a good man, not a convenient one." I love that woman more than I can say. Then came the printed emails. We'd shared a Netflix account, and she knew my general password pattern. She accessed my personal laptop, went through my email, and found a thread between me and a female coworker. We'd collaborated on a project together, grabbed coffee once with 2 other teammates, and exchanged some friendly professional banter. Normal, boring, workplace stuff. My girlfriend printed out 3 of those emails, printed them on paper, like evidence at a deposition, and placed them on the kitchen table in front of me. "So, while I'm trying to build our future, you're doing this." I looked at the pages. I looked at her. "You went through my laptop." I had a feeling something was off. "These are work emails." "You had coffee with her." "I have coffee with my entire team on a rotating basis." She pushed harder. Said I'd clearly emotionally checked out of the relationship long before this, which explained why she'd felt the need to make independent decisions. She was trying to flip the entire frame, turn herself into the wrong party, and turn me into the person who owed an apology. It was a genuinely impressive maneuver. If I hadn't been watching her do it in real time, it might have even worked. I stood up. "I need you to move out." She laughed. "You're not serious." "I'm serious." She stopped laughing. Here's the legal reality of our situation, which I want to be clear about because I looked into it immediately. The house was mine. Purchased before we met, mortgage in my name, deed in my name. She had no ownership interest, and we had no written cohabitation agreement. Under Colorado law, a cohabiting partner in that situation has no legal claim to the property. I gave her 30 days written notice, drafted by an attorney I hired that same week, which was more than legally required and more than she deserved given the circumstances. She didn't go quietly. She had her own attorney send a letter within the week claiming she had made significant contributions to the household and was entitled to compensation under theories of unjust enrichment and implied contract. My attorney had seen this before. We documented everything: mortgage records, deed, utility accounts, all in my name. Records showing her financial contributions to the household were informal and minimal. Her legal claim had no real foundation, and after 2 letters were exchanged, her attorney went silent. The whole thing collapsed in under 3 weeks. But she wasn't done. She spent that time building a social narrative. She told our mutual friends that I'd kicked her out for having ambition, that I'd been emotionally absent for years, that she had tried everything to connect with me, and I'd chosen comfort over her growth. It spread through our social circle fast. I started getting texts, some confused, some pointed, one long message from a mutual acquaintance about how I should examine my fear of growth as a partner. I read that one twice. Then I put my phone down and focused. Because here is what she did next, and this is the part I want you to understand clearly. She filed a complaint with my employer's HR department. She had never worked at my company. She'd met my manager exactly once, at a holiday party for about 15 minutes. But she submitted an anonymous complaint claiming I had created a hostile work environment for a female coworker, using those same 3 printed emails as her supporting evidence. My company took it seriously, as they're required to. HR investigated. The coworker in question was interviewed, was completely straightforward, confirmed the emails were entirely professional, and voluntarily showed HR her full correspondence with me to provide context. Every email was reviewed. The complaint was closed as unsubstantiated within 2 weeks. My manager pulled me aside after and said, without elaborating, "This one's done. I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but it's closed." She had tried to threaten my job, my income, my professional reputation, using fabricated implications about a coworker who had done nothing wrong. That was the moment I stopped thinking about this as a painful breakup and started thinking about it as a situation that required a response. So, here's what happened. In the chaos of removing her things out over that 30-day window, she left a tablet at the house. Not hidden, just left on the kitchen counter, plugged into a charger she'd forgotten. I plugged it in fully so I could return it through a mutual contact. When the screen lit up, a notification from her work email was visible on the lock screen, a scheduling confirmation for a final round interview for the Paris position, sent from her work account, time-stamped during business hours. I didn't open it. I didn't go into the tablet. I just charged it, packaged it up, and returned it through a mutual friend without a word. But I did have a conversation around that time with a former colleague of mine, who does HR consulting and had done contract work with her firm. We were catching up, and I mentioned, in the course of general conversation, that it was remarkable how much liability companies exposed themselves to when employees conducted extended outside job searches using company equipment and company time, and how those situations tended to become very complicated very fast once discovered. Just an observation between two people talking about the industry. That was the whole conversation. Her firm discovered the issue roughly 3 weeks later. I don't know the exact chain of events that led there. What I know is that she was terminated before the Paris offer was formally extended. And when the Paris company conducted their standard pre-employment background and reference check, which is routine for any senior-level role, especially for a company bringing in someone from abroad, her former employer's response was not what she needed it to be. The Paris offer was rescinded. I found out through the same social network she'd used to campaign against me. Word travels. She called me once after it all came apart. I let it go, to voicemail. She said she knew I had something to do with it. She said I'd ruined the most important opportunity of her life. She said, at the end, that she had loved me. I didn't call back. She got her suitcases into that terminal. She just never made it to Paris. I want to be honest about something because I think it matters. I don't sit around feeling victorious about how this ended. What I feel is clear. Clear in a way I hadn't been in a long time, maybe years. Because when I look at the full picture, the 3-month secret, the Easter announcement designed to use my family as social pressure, the attempt to recruit my mother, the fabricated emails narrative, the false HR complaint, the legal shakedown over a house she had no claim to, what I see is a person who is managing me, not loving me. Who looked at our relationship and saw a resource to be leveraged, not a person to be honest with. The Voyage at Easter wasn't a breakdown or a dramatic moment. It was just the first time I said out loud what I'd been quietly sensing for a while. She banked on 4 years of me choosing peace over conflict. She bet that when it came down to it, I'd fold. Most of the time in this relationship, she would have been right. She just happened to cash that bet in at Easter dinner in front of my entire family, with my mother watching, after 3 months of lying to my face. Wrong table. Wrong Sunday. Wrong guy. If you read this whole thing and didn't close the app when she pulled out those printed emails, you've got exactly the right energy for this community. So hit subscribe because apparently we're all processing our holiday dinners here together.